My sister always assumes she has the right to boss me around. When we were kids, it was making me clean the room, do the laundry, and give up my toys. When we grew up, it was borrowing money, borrowing my car, and then borrowing even my dream of freedom. And when I had just bought the first villa of my life, she called and ordered, "Get the beds, towels, slippers, and food ready for 15 people. We're staying for 3 weeks. We'll be there in 40 minutes. I just smiled. She had no idea this house wasn't meant for uninvited guests. It was meant to close the books on old debts. I sat alone in the spacious living room, gently swirling a glass of red wine in my hand. The late afternoon sunlight streaming through the glass windows, casting a glimmering streak of light across the white wall. The silence was so complete, I could hear the ticking of the wall clock's second hand. I looked up at the soaring ceiling. Every corner, every decorative detail was the result of 12 relentless years of work, starting from a cramped rented room and meals budgeted down to the last coin. No lottery win, no rich husband, no inheritance. This villa, every brick, every step of the staircase, came from my own sweat and tears. Alone. I was closing my eyes, taking a deep breath of the gentle new wood scent cupped in my palm when the phone rang. It was Stacy, my sister. The name flashing on the screen made something in my chest sink just a little. I turned on the speaker and placed the phone on the table as if to keep it at a distance. Her voice came through immediately, without a single greeting. "We're on our way to your place. There will be 15 of us." Before I could respond, she kept talking, her tone flat like she was giving orders to an employee. "Get the beds, towels, slippers, and food ready. We're staying for 3 weeks. We'll be there in 40 minutes, so hurry up." I sat still, not a single clear thought in my head. Not because I was surprised, but because I was too used to it. 30 years of living under the same roof with Stacy had taught me all too well how she saw me as an extension of her own life. An extra hand, an extra foot, an unpaid assistant who didn't need to be asked. I looked up at the ceiling again, took a deep breath, then let out a soft laugh. So soft, I wasn't even sure if I had actually laughed. I picked up the phone, my voice coming out slowly, calmly, and strangely. So gently, it was almost soothing. "Hello, Stacy? It's been a while since I heard your voice." I paused on purpose for a few seconds, then continued. "You're free to come." "But are you sure you want to do that?" I heard her snap back without hesitation. "What do you mean?" "Don't start acting petty. We're almost there." I nodded, knowing she couldn't see me. My hand gently raised the glass of wine to my lips, and I replied in the same calm tone as before. "Oh, nothing. Come on over. It's going to be quite memorable." I tapped the end call button. The screen went black. The room returned to its earlier silence. But this time, the quiet inside me was no longer peace. It was an undercurrent, waiting to rise. I was still standing in the middle of the living room, my hand gripping the phone whose screen had just gone dark. I should have felt angry, but I didn't. The first feeling that surged through me was a cold, hollow emptiness. Not because she had just brazenly ordered me to serve 15 people, but because I knew, deep down, I had grown used to being treated that way a long time ago. I closed my eyes. A light breeze slipped through the window frame, carrying the early autumn chill. A memory, long buried and seemingly faded, suddenly rushed back. I was 16. That day, the house was being cleaned to prepare for guests. My mother assigned me to scrub the staircase and dry the floor in the downstairs hallway. I tied my hair up high, wore an old, oversized shirt, and tried to do everything quickly, so I could still make it to lunch on time. I was bending down to wipe the stairs when a sharp crash rang out from the living room. The sound of glass hitting the tiled floor. A piercing scream. Startled, I dropped the rag and rushed into the room. The antique vase, Grandma's wedding gift, shattered into pieces, scattered beneath the coffee table. Stacy stood there, one hand on her hip, her face calm, as if none of it had anything to do with her. She looked me up and down, then said flatly, "What are you doing being so clumsy? Don't you know how valuable that vase was?" My eyes widened. It wasn't me. I was cleaning the stairs. I didn't even come into this room. My mother came running up from the kitchen. The moment she saw the broken shards, she shouted, "Oh my God! The vase your grandmother gave us! My wedding vase!" Only then did Stacy crouch down to pick up a few pieces of porcelain, still sighing. She probably reached for a cleaning rag and knocked it over, Mom. You know how clumsy she is. Have you forgotten already? I shook my head, fighting back tears, my voice trembling. It wasn't me. I didn't go near the table. I've been out in the hallway this whole time. My mother didn't listen. She pointed her finger straight at my face. Be quiet. Stop arguing. You always blame someone else. Stacy is older. She knows how to take better care of things than you. I'm tired of your irresponsibility. I stood frozen. My throat tightened as if someone were squeezing it. No one asked if I had actually broken the vase. No one looked at my hands, still wet and dusty from the stairs. All it took was one sentence from her. Just one. And I was guilty. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest. The feeling of injustice that day was like a gulp of cold water spilling straight from the heart. Sharp and bitter. She just stood there, quietly wiping her hands on a white towel, the corner of her mouth curling into a faint smile. No matter how much I said, no one would listen. Then that Christmas when I was 18 was probably the first time I learned how to smile without feeling anything on my lips. That evening, the extended family gathered around the Christmas tree set up in the middle of the living room. Beneath the tree were dozens of gift boxes, wrapped in colorful paper and tied with fancy ribbons. The scent of roast chicken, cinnamon cookies, and fresh pine blended into a festive atmosphere so overwhelming it almost caught in the throat. I sat tucked away in a far corner, gently running my fingers over the tiny gift box with my name on it. I hadn't even had a chance to open it when the sound of tearing paper next to me rang out with excitement. Stacy beamed as she held up a car key, her smile lighting up the whole room. Look, everyone! A new model. 3000cc, real leather seats. Oh my God, thank you so much, Mom. I turned my head to look. The opened box still lay on her lap. Mom stood beside her, arms crossed, eyes filled with pride. From behind us came a burst of loud laughter from Stua. This is epic. Our Princess Stacy is being spoiled to the max again. Mom nodded, gently smoothing Stacy's hair, her smile as sweet as honey. Of course I dote on her. She's a good girl. Drive safe, sweetheart. I lowered my gaze and tried to peel off the tape from my tiny gift. The wrapping paper was already crumpled. When I finally got it open, a sweater fell out. Silvery gray, with a fraying hem. Clearly secondhand. I kept trying to smile. I hadn't expected anything, but not expecting didn't mean I didn't feel a sting. Stacy turned to me, still swinging the car key in her hand. Oh, did you open your gift yet? A sweater, huh? Looks like something an old lady would wear to church. Before I could respond, Mom spoke from across the room. Her voice sounded like she was just saying it out of obligation. Please understand, dear. Money's tight this year. I'll make it up to you next time. I lowered my head, fingers clutching the hem of the sweater. No one asked if I liked it. No one looked at me. Only one aunt from Dad's side spoke up, her voice quiet as she glanced from Stacy to me. Wait, how come only Stacy got a car? My mother frowned. Her tone was slightly sharp, as if she were explaining something that really shouldn't need to be said. Well, Stacy is smart, pretty, outgoing. Girls like her need transportation to go out, network, do business in the future. But my youngest is very reserved. I looked up. A glimmer from the Christmas lights reflected across Stacy's face. She was smiling at a relative beside her. A bright smile, but her eyes were locked on mine, as if to make it clear that she was the chosen one. Always the chosen one. I took a deep breath and swallowed hard. That was when I realized something. They didn't need to ask what I wanted, because they had already decided who I was in this family. The one in the background, a stranger in the crowd. Then the memory paused again, at the year I turned 20. That day, I was in my room when the door suddenly slammed open. Before I could understand what was happening, Stacy stormed in, walked straight to my bed, and started yanking the pillows and blankets apart. I looked up, annoyed. What are you doing? Why are you going through my stuff? She didn't answer. She kept pulling open drawers. Her voice rang out full of arrogance. My wallet's gone. You're always jealous. You saw Mom give me money and you couldn't stand it, right? I froze, unable to react before my mother walked in. She didn't ask what was going on. Her eyes went straight to me, as if Stacy had just said something that had to be true. Did you take it? You're always so quiet. I never know what's on your mind. If you did take it, just admit it. I won't be angry. I turned to face my mother, my throat dry and burning. It felt like something was stuck in my neck, blocking the words. My eyes began to sting. I tried to stay calm, but the tears had already started to fall. I didn't take anything. I've never touched her stuff. I finished the sentence in a trembling voice, then stood still and looked at my mother. But she didn't look at me. Stacy stood with her arms crossed, leaning against my desk, her eyes filled with disdain. Well, who knows? The ones who act the most obedient are usually hiding something. My mother shook her head and sighed, her voice laced with exhaustion and disappointment. You've always been quiet and withdrawn. I've told you many times. Living like that only makes things harder for yourself. Your sister is sharp and knows how to behave. When I speak, she listens. But you always talk back. I didn't argue anymore. I turned my face away so she wouldn't see me wiping my tears. In that moment, I felt myself sinking. Not because I was wrongly accused, but because I could tell that something in her eyes had changed when she looked at me. It wasn't an angry look. It was a look of doubt. A look that told me I had never truly been the child my mother trusted. I lowered my head and swallowed all the words I wanted to say. In that moment, I understood something. Stacy had known how to flatter and charm since she was little. But I only knew how to be honest. And in this house, honesty had never been an advantage. Then came my wedding day. I once thought it would be the day I felt truly valued. The celebration was simple. No grand ballroom, no elaborate orchestra, no thunderous toasts. Just a small gathering in the yard under the glow of warm yellow lights, a few round tables covered with white cloths, a cake placed at the center of the gift table, and me in a simple rented wedding dress. I stood beside John. He held my hand tightly. But I knew that hand wasn't enough to shield me from what was coming. Stacy sat at the main table with her husband. One hand held a wine glass, The other waved in the air as she told stories, laughing loudly as if the party was hers. Stua got up, face flushed, holding a glass, wobbling toward the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, today is a big day for my sister. My sister-in-law." He looked toward John, pointed as if raising a toast, then burst out laughing. "I have to give it to John. Marrying the least noticeable girl in the family. That takes guts." Laughter broke out from a few nearby tables. I looked down at my feet. The wedding dress was still white, but it felt like mud had splashed all the way to my heart. Stacy leaned toward my mother, laughing as she spoke just loud enough for me to hear. "Stua, stop making the girl embarrassed. She's used to being quiet. Probably doesn't even know how to react." My mother placed her hand on mine as if to comfort me, but she gave it just a light pat, then pulled it back right away. "Don't be sad, dear. The youngest always gets teased. I went through the same. Just ignore them. Just ignore them." I couldn't tell if she was trying to protect me or justifying letting me be humiliated on my own wedding day. After the ceremony, I bent down to pick up a few envelopes that had slipped off the table, trying to avoid everyone's gaze. And as I bent down, I heard a voice whisper behind me. Not loud, but sharp enough to pierce like a thorn. "I can't believe that girl actually found a husband. And that guy looks so plain, but still agreed to a wedding like this. Strange." Another voice cut in. This time, it was clearly Stacy. "It's because she's so obedient, always knows her place. People like that tend to last long in marriage." I stood up, forcing a smile, still holding the stack of envelopes in my arms. No one saw my eyes in that moment. No one noticed the corners of my lips trembling from holding back. I smiled then, but it was the smile of someone swallowing something bitter. They didn't just belittle me, they believed I would always stay silent. The unnecessary shadow at every gathering. I had endured for so long, but every endurance has its limit. And I wasn't born to drown in silence. 3 years after the wedding, I bought a $2 million villa. And now, when my sister barks orders at me to prepare beds, slippers, towels for 15 people, her voice loud like I'm the maid of the whole family, I simply look at the phone in my hand. They think I'm still that same quiet shadow. They're very wrong. I've changed, and this time, no one will step through this door without an invitation. They once used that tone to command me. But now, I'm the one in control. Those people once crushed my self-respect. Now, I will crush their false pride with the truth. I set the phone down on the table, my eyes still fixed on the screen showing the just-ended call with Stacy. 15 people, 3 weeks, 40 minutes. No greeting, no asking, just an order, like always. I wasn't angry. I didn't rush to clean or rearrange anything. This villa was cleaner than ever, and it didn't need anyone stepping in to mess it up again. I did only one thing. I picked up the phone and dialed. The ring sounded once before someone answered on the other end. "Good afternoon, this is Sentinel Security. How may I assist you?" I raised the glass of wine to my lips, took a sip, and spoke clearly and calmly. "I need 2 security personnel at 108 Crestview Avenue. Within 30 minutes. Proper uniform. Stationed at the main gate." The man on the other end hesitated slightly. "May I ask the reason for the request?" I didn't pause. "There's a group of about 15 people on their way. They've announced they'll be staying at my home for 3 weeks. I did not invite them. I do not permit them to enter. If you need to document the situation, I can provide the call recording." The voice on the other end immediately turned serious. "Understood, ma'am. This is a case of attempted unlawful entry with possible disturbance. We'll dispatch personnel right away. The invoice will be sent to your email as usual." I smiled faintly. "Thank you. I'll be waiting." I ended the call. Then I set down my wine glass and walked over to the large glass doors facing the gate. From here, I could see the neatly trimmed row of trees lining the driveway. The garden lights had switched on automatically, their soft glow bright enough to illuminate every movement in the night. I took a deep breath. The evening air filled my lungs, cool and strangely soothing. I had imagined this moment 100 times. The first home I bought on my own, a quiet, beautiful, elegant space, but more than anything, one built by my own hands. And I had also imagined the day my sister would show up, acting like this place was shared property, a free resort for an entire entourage. I lifted the wine glass again and looked into the distance. They wanted a vacation? I would give them a lesson they'd never forget. The roar of engines echoed from the end of the alley. I set the glass down on the table and slowly walked to the door. Through the clear glass, I saw 3 black SUVs pull up in front of the villa gate, then a van. A few people stepped out, lugging large and small bags as if they had just arrived at a resort booked weeks in advance. And then, Stacy. Still that same face. Still that same attitude. Still that cheerful air like a queen arriving to inspect her estate. She glanced around, then turned and waved her hand like a tour guide leading a group. "Come on, everyone, we're here. Not bad at all, this place." I stood just behind the grand front door, silently observing every expression on her face. Stacy looked up, took a deep breath, then smiled as if this villa belonged to her. She continued, intentionally loud enough for the whole alley to hear. "Gotta admit, my sister has a bit of taste. Though I bet it was her boyfriend who gave her the ideas. That girl's never had a clue about design." A woman's voice chimed in from behind, probably a close friend or relative. "Wow, this place is really fancy, Stacy." Stacy turned back, raising her eyebrows with a smug smile. "Right? Who would have thought the girl could manage to buy a place this decent? But anyway, since she's my little sister, I decided to bring the whole family here for a vacation. Just so she knows what it feels like to host people with real class." I still hadn't appeared. Stacy went on and on as if she were leading a group of VIP guests into a luxury resort she had just invested in. "Everyone, make sure to line up, okay? My sister's house is a bit small, so just go in 2 by 2. I'm sure she already prepared all the slippers and towels. Let the kids run around the yard. It looks safe enough here." A man in the group called out loudly. "Hey, Stacy, how long are we staying here?" Stacy tilted her head, hand on her hip. 3 weeks, I told her very clearly. 3 meals a day, beds and blankets ready. All we have to do is enjoy ourselves. And judging by the look of this place, there's probably a pool out back. I hope you ladies brought your bikinis." Then she clicked her tongue. Thinking about it, I do feel sorry for her. Living alone in a big house like this must be so lonely. We came to brighten things up for her. It's been a long time since we all gathered anyway. She turned to whisper to the friend beside her, but loud enough for me to hear. When she was little, she always sat by herself. Some kind of autism or something. I felt sorry for her, but my mother always said to just leave her be. And she was right. Why waste time on kids who don't know how to flatter? She let out a mocking laugh. Back in high school, every time she scored lower than me, she cried. And she thought success came from talent. I wonder who it was that got her into her first company. I stood behind the large wooden door, silently watching. My expression didn't change, but inside, I was preparing for what I had long been waiting for. Stacy took a few more steps toward the gate, but this time, her smile vanished the moment she came face to face with 2 tall men in black suits blocking the entrance. They didn't move. They didn't greet her. They just stood there, like two steel walls. She narrowed her eyes, striding forward, her voice rising sharply. "Who are you? Step aside! This is my sister's house!" One of the two security guards leaned forward slightly, speaking in a calm but firm tone. "Sorry, ma'am. We are only following the homeowner's orders." I hadn't spoken yet when Stua pushed forward from behind, his voice sharp as if ready to start a fight. "That's right. Open the gate. Who hires security to block their own family? You think this makes you look impressive?" A woman holding a Louis Vuitton bag curled her lip in disdain. Stacy already explained. She's just coming to stay a few days to liven up the house. Why make such a fuss? A man standing nearby let out a dry laugh. Probably been alone too long without visitors. Now that people show up, she sees it as a bother. The group chuckled together. Stacy lifted her chin and stepped forward as if to put me in my place right there in my own yard. "You know, I really didn't have to go to this trouble, but I thought I'd give you a rare chance to show some hospitality." She turned back and smiled at the group. She's probably just shocked I brought so many people. That's why she's flustered. She's always been timid and jealous since childhood. It's nothing. A house this big should be happy to have family here. Another young woman cut in, her voice sweet but loaded with meaning. "But look at you now. You've moved up in the world. Fancy villa, designer goods, wine too. Who would have thought you knew how to enjoy life like this?" Stacy narrowed her eyes in a smile, her gaze cutting across me. She's always been so reserved since childhood, always hiding everything like treasure. Now that she shows a little, she immediately puts up barriers and hires guards, as if she's afraid we'll steal something. I stayed where I was. The glass of wine tilted slightly in my hand, my eyes fixed on Stacy, staring straight into those fiery, theatrical eyes. Family. Family usually calls before showing up. Family doesn't order me to prepare as if for an invading army. And above all, family never assumes they have the right to stay in my house for 3 weeks. Stacy stepped forward, shouting now, almost losing control. "Your house is huge. What's wrong with staying a few weeks? You're being selfish." She looked around, trying to rally allies. "Everyone, isn't that right? Her house is 10 times bigger than her old apartment, and now she begrudges a few empty rooms. What kind of person is this? So narrow-minded? So bitter? Like a spinster?" Another voice chimed in, pretending to whisper but deliberately loud. "No wonder the whole family only loves Stacy. This girl has been so withdrawn since she was little. No one could ever get close to her." Stacy shot me a sharp glare. "To be honest, if you weren't my sister, you'd still be stuck in that tiny rented apartment, working some dead-end office job. Don't think a little money makes you superior." Behind me, a shrill woman's voice rang out, dripping with upper-class arrogance. "So you bought a $2 million house and suddenly think you're a queen. Hypocrisy dressed up, but in the end, you're still nothing." I didn't look at her. I simply took one step forward. That step alone was enough to quiet the whispers. I stopped right in front of Stacy. Her eyes widened, her jaw clenched tight. I spoke. My voice wasn't loud, but each word came out sharp, cutting straight through the mask she had worn all her life. "This is my house, and I do not allow it." I swept my gaze over everyone standing there. Silence. The tension pressed down on the air like glass about to shatter. "You have 2 choices. 1, get back in your cars and leave. 2, stay here and wait for the police to handle trespassing and harassment." I looked straight into Stacy's eyes. "Which will it be?" Stacy roared. "You? Who do you think you are? You're nothing but a failure, a shadow your whole life." I didn't break eye contact. "You were the one Mom loved. Yes, you were always cherished, and I wasn't. But do you remember Grandma's antique vase that broke when I was 16? You were the one who broke it, yet you blamed me. Stacy screamed. That was ages ago. Stop bringing it up again. I tilted my head and gave a faint smile. What about the time I scored higher than you on the final exams in 11th grade? That night, you came into my room, tore my workbook to shreds, and even cut up my textbooks page by page. I still kept the back cover with my handwriting and a few scraps of pages you left behind. Have you forgotten? The crowd around us began to murmur. Stacy stepped back. You're making this up. You're making all of it up. I didn't stop. What about the little cat named Milo that I brought home? The one that scratched your hand when you tried to grab its tail. You locked it in the shoe cabinet and it suffocated. You even laughed while I cried searching for it for 2 days. Do you remember? Stacy's face flushed red. She was starting to lose control. I screamed because it scratched me. What could you do about it? And now you bring up a cat? Ridiculous. I lowered my voice. Do you remember the burn on my back? I was 14. The pot of boiling water fell from the high shelf as I bent down to grab a towel. You told Mom it was my carelessness, and she believed you, but you had nudged me as I bent down. I still remember your eyes in that moment, full of satisfaction. Stacy froze. Her face was no longer furious, but began to twist in fear. You have no proof. I pulled out my phone and played an old video on the screen. In it, a young girl sneered while tearing pages from a book, saying, "She thinks she's smart? Let's see if she can still take exams after this." I lifted my head. This video was filmed by you. I found it on the old hard drive you left behind at Mom's house. And this isn't the only one. There are plenty more. Enough for everyone to see who you really are. The air around us froze. No one spoke. The eyes that once admired Stacy shifted to shock, then disbelief. A young woman whispered, "My God, I follow her on Instagram all the time. She always talks about compassion and family love, and yet..." Stacy shrieked. Her high-pitched voice cracked like a glass shattering on tile. "You set me up. You're trying to ruin me? I am a good person. I've lived decently. You're all just jealous of me." She lunged forward, her hand raised to slap me, but before it could touch me, a security guard's hand stopped hers mid-air. Stacy thrashed, her mouth screaming non-stop. "You filthy dog! You ungrateful wretch! Who do you think you are, daring to shame me in front of people I know? You're trash! Nothing but trash!" An older man standing nearby shook his head. Unbelievable for her to speak such venom. Stacy looked around and saw the eyes on her. No more sympathy, only doubt, contempt, and shock. I calmly stepped half a pace back. Now you understand, don't you? All the layers of makeup you've worn for years are gone. For the first time in her life, she was silent. Stacy stood frozen for a few seconds after my words. Her face flushed crimson. Her eyes blazed wildly. And then, unable to hold back any longer, Stacy lunged straight at me like a cornered animal. She screamed, her voice shrill enough to cut the ears. "I'll tell Mom about this. She'll know how you treat your sister. What will she think of you? You ungrateful brat. You buy this house and treat your own blood like an enemy." The 2 security guards quickly blocked her, not allowing Stacy another step. She struggled, but the more she fought, the clearer the desperation in her eyes became. "Mom?" I paused for a beat, then repeated more clearly. "You want to talk about Mom? Fine. Then let's talk about the inheritance from Grandma that you and she hid from me for 15 years. I stopped, lifted my head high, my eyes never leaving hers. The air fell silent. The crowd behind her seemed drained of sound. No more laughter, no more words, only a light breeze rustling the strands of hair at my temple. Stacy stood frozen. Her face had visibly gone pale, both hands clenched tight. She blinked rapidly, as if trying to decide whether she had heard me right. You're talking nonsense. Grandma didn't leave anything. You're insane. I didn't answer. I only looked deep into her eyes. Stua had stepped forward by then. He narrowed his eyes at me, then turned to Stacy. Stacy, what is she talking about? What inheritance? What secret? No one answered. Stacy stood there, her lips moving but no sound coming out. I knew this moment would come. I had waited for it for so long, and I would not let it slip by in silence. I looked at Stacy. She was trying to stay calm, but the panic was plain on her face. I didn't laugh loudly. I didn't rage. I only smiled faintly, a smile without a trace of joy. My voice came steady, clear, and cold. Grandma left everything to me, not a share. All of it. I paused for a beat, then continued. She knew well our parents would favor you. She knew that if it were divided, I would never have a chance to keep my part. So she created a separate trust, with one condition only. I could announce and access it once I turned 35. I ran my fingers lightly along the rim of my wine glass, my eyes still locked on Stacy's paling face. That money has been compounding for 15 years, and this house, it is only from the interest. A heavy silence fell. Stacy stepped back. I saw her grip Stua's arm. Her face was ghostly white, as if all the blood had drained from it. Her voice came faint, dry, stripped of strength. That's a lie. You're making it up. Where are the papers? I did not rush. I pulled a thick envelope from my bag and held it up for everyone to see. I have every legal document here, supervised, sealed, and certified by lawyers. I took a step closer toward her. And one more thing, dear sister. The money Mom gave you to buy your house years ago. It also came from that trust. She withdrew funds multiple times, forging my signature. With your help. I slowed my words, letting each sentence, each syllable sink into the ears of everyone standing before me. Legally, you and Mom misused assets that belong to me, which also means the house you live in is mine. I have every right to sue and reclaim it. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Several eyes shifted. They no longer looked at me with irritation, but with curiosity, and then confusion. A man standing near the gate whispered to the person beside him, "My God, does that mean they stole her money?" That sentence spread like fire through dry grass. The person next to him turned to look, then another. And soon, the whole group was buzzing. Stacy turned back, her voice pleading. "Don't listen to her. She's making this up. She's been jealous of me since we were kids. She's always been like this, always thinking everyone was out to get her." Stua said nothing, but I could see it clearly in his eyes as he looked at his wife. They were not the same as before. This time, his voice came heavy and sharp. "Stacy, is what she said true? Our house, was it stolen?" Stacy quickly turned to him. "You believe her? You think I would really do that? I'm your wife, the mother of your child. Everything I've done was for this family." Stua shifted away from his wife's hand. His voice was quieter now, but every word cut into the heated air like a blade. "For the family you conspired to take your sister's inheritance. For the family you turned someone else's money into our home. Stacy, I don't know who you are anymore." She turned to me, her eyes red. Her voice choked as if she could hardly breathe. "You can't do this. You have no right. You're my sister. How can you say such things?" I looked straight at her. My voice was not loud, not raised, but perhaps for the first time in my life, I silenced Stacy with nothing but my calm. I am only giving back to you what you have done to me for 30 years. I looked at Stacy. She stood there like a stripped shadow in broad daylight. Her face had lost all color. Her eyes darted between me and Stua as if searching for a final escape. But the door behind me remained closed, and the door of her false pride had just been slammed shut by me. Stacy tightened her grip and hissed, "Be quiet. Be quiet right now. I did all of this for our family, for our future. Do you think I wanted to do it?" I saw Stua looking at her with a gaze I no longer recognized. His eyes were red, his throat twitching as if he were trying to hold back. "For the family, huh?" "For your lies." I truly felt ashamed standing there at that moment. For the first time, I saw Stua not take Stacy's side. It was also the first time I saw a real crack in her eyes. She opened her mouth to argue, but no words formed. Her eyelids began to tremble, but I would not give her the breath to speak. I spoke slowly, clearly. "I will not demand that house back. I do not need it. I never even wanted it. Do you hear me?" I paused a second to look straight into her eyes. Stacy's face twitched. I continued, "But there is one condition. From this moment on, you and everyone standing here will disappear from my life. If I happen to see you on the street, you will look away. If you deliberately approach me, I will sue. If you violate this even once, I will reopen the entire file and take both you and Mom to court." I stopped. I looked at each person in the crowd as they bowed their heads or turned away. "You will lose everything, your reputation, the house, and the respect of your husband and children." I stepped back a pace, my voice lowering. "So now? Do you want to step into my house? Or do you want to get in your car and disappear?" I stood there without blinking. My hand still held the wine glass, untouched. Stacy stood motionless as if turned to stone. The murmur at my ears no longer sounded clear. The people behind her seemed to hold their breath, waiting for her reaction. At last, Stacy blinked repeatedly. Her eyes were red-rimmed, wet. She lowered her head, slowly, as if her neck no longer had the strength to hold it up. No words came from her mouth. She turned away. I could not see her face clearly, but I knew. Tears were falling. Not tears of regret, but tears of impotent anger and of utter humiliation. Stua walked to the SUV parked at the gate. He did not say a word. His hand yanked the driver's door open, his eyes fixed straight ahead, completely ignoring the wife stumbling behind him. I stood on the doorstep in silence, but my heart was not silent. It beat with steady, deliberate thuds, as if carving every image before me into memory. Because this was the first time in my life I saw Stacy speechless. The relatives climbed into the cars one by one. Some with lowered heads, some looking uneasy. No more laughter, no more sneers. No one dared say I was being excessive. They were silent as if stripped of a masquerade and left with nowhere to hide. Stacy was the last to walk toward the car. Each step she took dragged a shadow of gloom. She was no longer walking, but dragging herself. Her shoulders sagged. Her hair was a mess. Her face vacant, drained of blood. I did not take my eyes off her. Stacy stopped at the car door, clutching the handle as if it were the only thing keeping her from collapsing. After a long moment, she spoke. But not to me. She muttered to herself, her voice hoarse and broken. "I didn't lose. I was just unlucky." No one answered. The door slammed shut. The convoy rolled away. The gate closed automatically behind them. I stood still for several minutes. A light breeze brushed my cheek. The villa returned to its quiet self. Then I turned back inside. But before I could close the door, the phone rang. I flinched, unused to that sound at such a time. I looked at the screen. It was Mom. That number I once saved as Mom, then changed to Do Not Answer, then deleted. But she still remembered mine, still kept it, still pressed call. I stood still for a moment, then I answered. Her voice came through, hoarse and weary. It's me. I answered at once, without hesitation. I thought you had erased my number. There was a silence, then she exhaled. I deserved that, but today I'm calling because I just realized something. I have to say it. I lowered my voice, no longer sharp, but not gentle either. What is it? She faltered, as if forcing down words she had never imagined speaking in her life. It's about Stacy. Earlier, when you spoke in front of everyone about the trust fund. On the way home, Stacy called me. I tightened my grip on the phone. I didn't interrupt. I only listened. At first, she cried. She asked me, Mom, was she telling the truth? Is that fund real? And then I nodded. I confirmed it. And, do you know what happened? Her voice changed instantly. Her voice suddenly broke. She screamed. Why did you let this happen? You knew she had a fund, and you still let her keep it? You let me withdraw? Then you should have given me all of it. You promised me. She blamed me. She scolded me. She said I ruined her, that her husband would leave her, that her reputation had collapsed. She cursed me. My child, do you know, in my whole life, I had never heard her speak to me like that? I closed my eyes. My hand rested on the cold railing. So, you only realize now that Stacy is not the good daughter you always believed in? On the other end of the line, sobs broke out. I was blind. I thought her obedience, her flattery, meant love. I defended her. I secretly took money from the fund you were not yet allowed to touch. I thought I was doing it for the family, but in truth, I was only helping her take what belonged to you. I opened my eyes, my voice steady as a still lake. For 3 years, you never once reached out to me. When I was in pain, humiliated, blamed, you stayed silent. And now that Stacy has been exposed, you call? She sobbed. I know. I have no right to ask forgiveness. I only want to say I am sorry, even if you never want to hear it. I did not shout. I did not cry. My voice did not shake. I stopped hoping you would take my side long ago. Now that you finally see, it no longer matters. I live in peace. Please let me be. I ended the call. No anger, no resentment, no regret, only nothing left to hold on to. I turned back inside, closed the grand door. The villa returned to silence. No voices, no commands, no mockery. Yet, it was not over. I heard the story from a friend who lived in the same neighborhood as Lisa. At that moment, I had not intended to ask. But when she spoke, her voice full of pity, saying Stacy had started calling each old acquaintance to justify herself, I only sat in silence. Not because I did not care, but because I knew too well Stacy would never fall so easily. What I did not expect was that the first person she called was Lisa, her closest friend for nearly 20 years. Lisa recounted everything, word for word. Stacy called her that afternoon, 2 days after being turned away from my villa. She began the call with that familiar tone, sighing and choking as if the whole world had turned against her. Lisa, you cannot imagine how cruel my sister is. She trampled on me in front of all our relatives and friends. She called security to block me right at the gate. Just think, I am her sister, the one who cared for her in place of our mother since she was little. And now she treats me like a stranger. Lisa did not answer right away. Stacy went on. Do you know, in the end, she even dragged my mother into it just to slander me? She made up lies, saying my mother favored me, saying she stole the inheritance. My God, I have never seen anyone so vicious. Lisa, you know me. You know I am not like that. Lisa cut her off. Stacy, I have seen the video. The line went silent. Stacy was stunned. Video? What video? Lisa's voice was cold. The video of you screaming outside her house. I watched it again and again, Stacy. And not just me, our whole college group, even some of your former colleagues. Everyone has seen it. Stacy tried to salvage herself. Lisa, no, you do not understand. It was because I was too angry. Everything had been bottled up. I did not truly mean it. Lisa cut her off, firmer this time. I was shocked, Stacy. I never imagined you could treat your own sister like that. No matter the conflict, she is your sister. Your blood, and you turned her into a laughingstock for everyone? What else do you expect me to believe? Stacy's voice broke apart. Lisa, please listen to me. You are the only one I can still. Lisa stopped her. I think we should stop keeping in touch for now. Then the cold sound of the line disconnecting came. No farewell, no compassion. I was not there at that moment. But when my friend told me, I could clearly picture the look in Stacy's eyes after that abrupt end. For the first time in her life, the sister who had always believed she would be forgiven by everyone realized that every door was closing. Not because of me, but because of her own words and actions. That was not a slap from a younger sister. It was the first price of reputation. And it had just been paid, with absolute silence, from the closest person. Stacy panted. Her whole body trembled. She sank to the floor, the phone slipping in her sweat-soaked hand. Short clips replayed over and over before her eyes. The screams. The face twisted in rage. The most foolish words she had ever spoken echoing straight into her skull. You are nothing but a failure of a sister. And then the next line, like a sentence that finished off her reputation. I cannot even make money on my own like she can. A wave of panic surged through Stacy, nearly choking her. Her fingers flew frantically across the screen, trying to trace the video. A Snapchat group. The group was called Family and Friends, once her safe space. The video had been posted from Stua's account. Her eyes widened in shock. Stua? She could not believe her own eyes. Her husband, the man who had always stood by her side, always nodded to every decision. He was the one who had quietly recorded that moment and then released it online. Stacy screamed, hurled the phone onto the sofa, then snatched it up again to call her husband. Stua, where are you? Answer me! No one picked up. Stacy clutched her hair, screaming in frenzy. You posted it? Why? Are you insane? Do you want to destroy me? Still no answer. She opened her contact list, dialing over and over the numbers of her 3 closest colleagues at the law firm where she worked. No one picked up. Stacy began to cry, her hands trembling. She opened her email, searching for some comfort. But the first thing she saw was a short notice from the Human Resources Department. Dear Mrs. Stacy, the company wishes to inform you that your personal image is no longer aligned with our ethical standards and internal culture. We request that you take unpaid leave to address your personal matters. A formal decision will be announced at the upcoming board meeting. Her eyes stayed fixed on the screen. No one was on her side anymore. No one believed her excuses. And the first person to cast her into the light was the one who had once shared the same bed. The one Stacy never expected. Stua. He had chosen to turn away. Stacy clutched her head and sank to the floor, murmuring, No way. You could not do this to me. You are my husband. You are family. Then she fell silent, because that very word family was what she had always used to trample on others, and now it had turned back to trample her. Every line in the video, every viewer's glance, every click to share, all of it was turning Stacy into what she had despised her whole life. A bitter failure with no one left to hear her plea. And no one wanted to listen anymore. I heard the whole story from a friend who lived near Stacy 2 days after I had driven her from the villa. The scene unfolded that evening when Stua returned home after a day of turmoil. Stacy waited for him at the door, her eyes red, her hair disheveled, the video she had just watched still on her phone. The door opened and she rushed at him like a whirlwind. "You dared to post it?" Stacy's voice rasped, her hand pointing straight at her husband. "You are a traitor. When did you and that bastard plan to destroy me? How could you stand there recording and then quietly post it? Are you even my husband?" Stua removed his shoes and calmly hung his coat on the rack. He did not answer right away. Only when Stacy screamed again did his eyes slowly turn toward her. "Since I found out you were having an affair with Brad?" The words struck Stacy like a knife driven straight into her chest. Her face went pale. Her lips trembled. Where did you get that idea?" I never... Stua cut her off, his voice steady like cold water. "Do you remember our daughter's old tablet?" He walked to the table, opened a drawer, and pulled out the worn iPad with its pale pink case. It was still linked to your Apple account, and every iMessage you sent was fully synced, including the ones where you told Brad about me, that I was dull, that you married me only for reputation, that you were sick of this bed, this house, and this family. Stacy froze. Her hands shook violently. "No, that is impossible. I logged out. I deleted it." Stua's voice tightened, still calm to the point of coldness. "But you forgot children do not set passwords. And you forgot our daughter once gave me this iPad when I was looking up study materials for her." He placed the tablet on the table, the screen still showing a message thread. Stacy lunged forward to snatch it, but Stua held it back. "I never intended to expose you until you did something even worse." Stacy stepped back half a pace. "What?" Stua looked straight into his wife's eyes. "I know about the loan you took in your mother's and sister's names. I know about the money you stole from the trust that was never yours. And the one who told me was your sister." Stacy stood stunned, as if all her strength had been drained. "No, there is no way she dared." Stua cut her off, his voice sharp as a razor. "She called me a week before buying the house. She said a big change was coming, and she believed you would react badly. She asked me, 'Stua, if this comes out, will you choose to stand on the side of what is right?' I told her I would choose my daughter. Then she showed me all the papers, your signature, the loans taken under other names, the details of the inheritance fund." I did not need to hear another word. Stacy backed away completely, her voice breaking. What are you going to do to me?" Stua walked to the table, picked up a stack of papers, and threw them onto the sofa. "This is the divorce petition," he said, his eyes unblinking. "I will take custody of our daughter. All the evidence of your debt and your infidelity will be submitted to the court. You had better find a good lawyer. Or, if you prefer, you could use your sister's lawyer. I hear she has a talent for pitying those who have destroyed their own lives. But she is not foolish enough to forgive." Stacy collapsed, clutching the stack of papers. "No, I will not agree. We can still fix this." Stua turned away, walking toward the stairs, his voice dry as stone. "No one can save the one who burns down their own house, and you already burned it, Stacy. You did. No one else. I heard that much, and I only smiled. At last, Stacy knew what it felt like to be stabbed in the back by family. That feeling is not pleasant at all, is it? The shabby rented room crouched in a narrow alley at the end of the street. Damp stains spread across the walls as if competing to tell the tragedy of the one who lived there. I stood before the wooden door with peeling paint, a sealed envelope in my hand. No need to knock. The door was already ajar. Perhaps Stacy had been waiting for someone, or simply no longer cared to lock it. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. Stacy sat curled on a thin mattress on the floor beside a small fan that barely worked. She wore an old sweater, her hair a mess, dark circles under her eyes. The room bore no trace of the woman who once lived in a villa, drove luxury cars, carried designer bags, and spoke as if the whole world owed her applause. Stacy lifted her head to look at me. Her voice was hoarse, raw, and sharp. "What are you here for? To watch me sink even lower?" I glanced around the room. An old plastic table, 2 unopened packs of noodles, a few children's clothes folded neatly in the corner. No suitcase, no belongings, nothing but the emptiness of someone who had lost her husband, her house, and her reputation in only a few days. I set my bag on the floor. My voice was calm, neither cold nor mocking. "I heard you are about to face court over debts and divorce, and you no longer have money to hire a lawyer." Stacy sprang up from her seat. "You mean to pity me?" I did not answer. Instead, I pulled a thick envelope and a business card from my bag. I stepped closer and placed them on the plastic table in front of her. "Inside is $10,000 in cash. Not for you." I looked straight into Stacy's eyes without flinching. "But for the children, so they will not have to live in deprivation. And here is the card of a good lawyer. I have already paid his retainer for you. He will help you secure the best possible arrangement, at least enough for you to keep visitation rights with your children." Stacy's hands trembled, her eyes fixed on the envelope as if it were an object of humiliation. "What do you gain from this? To show the world you are magnanimous? Or so that every time I look at this money, I will remember how you ruined me?" I exhaled softly. "No, I did this so the children would not have to live with the consequences of their mother. As for you, you may take it or throw it away, your choice." I turned toward the door, but then I stopped. I looked back at Stacy, now only a distorted, broken shadow of the sister who once stood on a wedding stage mocking me before a crowd. "Take this as the last mercy I will ever give you." I pressed each word like a blade into the remnants of her pride. "Not because I forgive you, but because I remember the sister I once admired when I was a child." I paused, giving her a moment to wrestle with that memory. That sister died long ago, and the one before me now is nothing but pitiful. Without waiting for Stacy to reply, I turned away and walked out of that cramped room. No glance back, no hesitation, nothing more to say. Behind me, I heard Stacy's trembling hand touch the envelope, followed by her sobbing. No longer the shouting, the cursing, or the bitterness. It was a hoarse cry, choked as if her throat could not force out the words, "Thank you." I stepped outside, lifting my head to the gray sky of late afternoon. No more heaviness, no more bitterness. The sweetest revenge is not to drive your enemy into a corner. It is to hand them a lifeline and force them to cling to it every day, so they remember that without it, they would have drowned, and that lifeline was given by my own hand. Some people believe they are clever, that they can control, manipulate, and exploit others again and again. But what they forget is that when a person has endured to their limit, the price will come in a way they never expect. Forgiveness is not weakness. but some things are not worthy of being forgiven. My dear friends, if you have ever felt the sting of betrayal, humiliation, or being abandoned by your own family, remember this: your silence today may be the very blow that ends their reputation tomorrow. If this story resonated with you, do not forget to leave a comment to share your thoughts. Click like to support the author and subscribe to the Revenge Diary channel so you will not miss the next stories.